Welcome to day four, the last day of the FNS workshop for the Mid-Atlantic region. Thank you so much for being with us throughout this entire week. We've covered a lot of ground, a lot of great information, and we hope everything that we've organized for you all is going to be valuable. So to start us out for the day, just wanted to open it up to you all again to get a sense of any kind of questions you have, any kind of comments. And we had a great virtual site visit yesterday, a really great panel up front, and lots of material that we've covered so far. So if you have any questions on any of the content or any questions for any of our guests that came, we can certainly relay those to them and get you synced up with them as well. So yeah, how are you all feeling? Any comments, questions at this point? Alrighty, well, not seeing or hearing any, so we'll just move on for the day. And today's going to really be all about bringing together all the pieces that we've been talking about over the last 3 days. So we're going to cover the conclusion, we're going to dig into the planning and outreach tools, and of course, you'll have a lot of time to connect with your state teams to start thinking about planning, outreach, and other utilizations of the trainer's action plan. So to get us started, I'm going to hand it over to Tammy, who's going to be starting us out with the conclusion.
Thanks, Tomas. And thanks everybody that stuck with us over the last 4 days. It's a lot of material to cover, but we are in the home stretch, and we're gonna talk about the very last module in this Bringing the Farm to School toolkit, and that's the conclusion. So let's dig into that. And as you can see, if you want to follow along, the conclusion starts on page 101 of the Facilitator Guide and also page 51 of the Producer Workbook. And like all the other modules, this page in the Facilitator Guide includes a brief overview of the conclusion, the curriculum outline map, and also some background information, including some digging deeper resources and a link to that slide deck file that you see here. The Producer Workbook similarly prompts producers to review that action planning guide and those checklists that they've been going over all along as you've been conducting your training for them. So the curriculum outline can be seen in not necessarily more detail, but definitely larger print on page 17. And that helps those of us who are starting to become nearsighted, like myself. You can see the conclusion includes 3 main sections. An overview, basically, talking about what we want to accomplish in this last module, an action planning section, and then this final section for post-training evaluations. And the materials needed for the conclusion include that action planning guide, which is in Appendix A. We've talked about that all along. A postcard for that final activity with producers, and then the post-training survey materials that Lydia is going to be talking about here shortly. So jumping into the slides, we are now on page 102 of, we're getting to the end of our Facilitator Guide. So page 102 of the Facilitator Guide, and slides 2 and 3 of the producer's slide deck. And up to this point, producers have used their action plan really as a tool to identify motivations and goals and those immediate next steps. And this has obviously been a thread throughout the entire training, but this is where we tie all their action planning pieces together. And these slides just are kind of an introduction to the conclusion, and they provide an opportunity for you to talk about what you hope to accomplish in this final section of the producer training, and which is basically to finish up have producers finish up their action plan, and to complete that post-training evaluation. This also might be a good time to recap those key takeaways and the content they have learned throughout the training. There are talking points included on page 102 for slide 5, and it summarizes basically each module, but like all other aspects of this curriculum that we've been trying to drive home, you should definitely consider adapting these talking points to reflect what you've actually covered in your training. So maybe you've only covered modules 1 and 2 up to this point, and you would want to just recap those sections, and so on and so forth. So after the training recap, we really start to dive into the action planning. So slides 7 and 8 structure time for producers to look over their action plans and make edits and ask questions, followed by either a small group or a whole group sharing. And this is really going to depend on the size of the group, how much time, and what level of support producers still need. That will really dictate the amount of time you want to spend here. We encourage trainers to feel comfortable in building in more time here and really avoid glossing over this section, because this is an opportunity for producers to articulate what they're going to be doing next regarding their goals for selling to schools. And this is really the final table in that action planning guide, is called the Tying It All Together table. Yeah, that was a real creative title for that table. And that's on page 61 of the producer workbook, if you want to take a look at that. And it corresponds with slide 9 of the facilitator guide on page 103, if you want to follow on there. And as you recall, there's time at the end of each module to review the end of module check-ins, and we've kind of shown that to you all along as we've gone over the curriculum. And also for the producers to fill in that action planning table for each module as you're going through the content. So the Tying It All Together table really attempts to pull together all of those components and all of those checklists that they've been following along in their action plan, and really put it into one spot for producers. And one thing I wanted to note here is that we really borrowed heavily from the lean canvas principle of business planning. And I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that. Probably folks with an extension that have done a lot of business planning are familiar with that. But it can be a super useful tool for producers to utilize when they're considering either a new market channel or a new enterprise. So you'll see the table includes this first column for producers really to identify that market channel that they've landed on, whether it's direct to the school, through an intermediary like a food hub or a broadline distributor. And then also to articulate how they're going to pursue or connect with that particular market channel. And choosing one doesn't really preclude the others, but we really do encourage you to encourage producers to focus on just one for the purposes of this particular process. And they might want to print off different, this page, a few for each market channel that they might want to consider. And then the next column includes that values pitch. So what makes their product different or unique? And why should schools be interested in purchasing from them? And hopefully they've had a little bit of practice based on the values pitch activity that Margot shared with you all yesterday. And then those following columns, as producers, to really identify those key resources, the next steps, and the key products and partners that are really needed to move forward with school sales via that market channel they've identified. And ideally, these resources, products, partners, next steps, and all have already been identified in that action planning table. So if they're still missing or have any gaps, or even having trouble identifying which market or the products they tend to sell to schools, then you might want to encourage them to review or revisit some of the relevant content areas from the training, or help them identify important additional context that you might have in their state or region. And also, we want to make sure that you all know that we can be, our team from the National Farm to School Network and NCAT can be one of those resources. So please keep that in mind. And also I wanted to mention, for a deeper dive into how to support trainers in using action planning, we have a recorded training where we go through an example in the action plan tables, as well as we, as you know, to keeping in with our peer learning principles. We hear from two farms, Fiery Ginger Farm in California, and then Rolling Branch Farms in Georgia, about how they use informal and formal goal setting and action planning to sell to schools. And so that video can be found in the Facilitator resources page. And I will also try to, let me get that here to put on in the chat. And you're going to have to bear with me while I do a little multitasking here. Oh, darn it. Okay. I will make sure to do that right after my presentation here. It's not in our run a show. Okay. So this final activity for your producer training is you know, an activity that celebrates the end of the training and can support producers by holding themselves accountable and motivated, and keep them motivated to actually follow through with their action plans. And the suggested activity here is for producers to send themselves a postcard that won't arrive until 6 months to a year later. And producers will be asked to address a postcard to themselves with a goal or vision for where they see themselves in a year. And as trainers, you'll collect them and mail them at a later date. And time permitting, if you have enough time, you may want to ask producers to share what they write on their postcard. And that can help them if they feel comfortable with the whole group. This activity probably would take like 10 to 15 minutes from start to finish. And the instructions for this are on the bottom of page 103, or slide 10 is a thumbnail. So, but I wanted to stop here and just ask, are there any other closing activities that you folks want to share that are, you know, to help wrap up producer training similar to this? Feel free to put them in the chat or come off mute. Amber's talking about a pre and post test. And Tracy, the cafeteria funds are not provided by the local school district budget. What is, do you want to clarify that a little bit, Tracy?
That was my response to the original opening question on what you've learned new this week.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, yeah, and the pre and post test is similar, Amber, to the evaluations that Lydia will be talking about. But yeah, that definitely is a good way. Any other ideas? Well, mentoring and yes, pairing people up. That's a really great idea, Aracelis. All right. Well, feel free to keep. Yes.
Hey, it's Patrick in Pennsylvania.
Hey, Patrick. Yeah.
Hey, so I'm just trying to find my glasses. One of the things that we have done in Pennsylvania and we'll plan to continue to do is hold some like half-day roundtables throughout the following year. So we'll do one if we do our training in the winter, then we do, pardon me, we would do we would do a roundtable in April and August and November. And in those roundtables, we review some of the financial tools that we've given them. We talk about how projects are going, you know, if they've done some project planning to build a market channel with the school, and continue to build the peer connections that develop within the training itself. You know, you see a lot of sort of people gravitate toward one another and start talking about their mutual interests or mutual problems that they deal with on their farm, and then they start to kind of work through the curriculum together and things like that. So try to continue to nurture those relationships as well. But that's one of the things that we do kind of at the end. It's really great to see the relationships continue.
Yeah, that follow-up that's such a great idea. And I've seen that be really successful in the beginning farmer trainings that I've done in the past. So I love to see you extending that into some of these like intermediate concepts. And also building on that, Patrick, we have had some of the state teams have talked about ending with a meet and greet with different school food authorities, and having school food authorities kind of like a speed dating type of situation where they can actually do their really do their value pitch with different school food authorities in the region. So that was another idea we've heard. So
yeah.
Great.
Also, if you do bring people back together, it's another opportunity to bring to put subject matter experts in front of them to talk a little bit, you know, that doesn't take up the time that's during the initial training. So
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, so this last section is really about the post-training evaluation, and note that there are two post-training evaluations. So one that is actually going to occur at the end of the training, and the second is going to happen 6 to 12 months after the training that you do. So the post-training survey link it's listed here on this slide, which is also should be in your facilitator guide and in the slide deck. So I'll make sure to post that for you to just check out. And Lydia will be sharing more about the post-training survey in a bit here. And there also there's some more detail on the evaluation protocol guidance that we've had to adapt for some of the virtual trainings that will inevitably take place, unfortunately, because of COVID-19. And that is located in the green pocket folder that you all received. And Lydia, like I said, will be talking about that a little bit more here in a bit. So that is actually a wrap on the curriculum, and hopefully the last 2 or 3 days has really given you a good sense of the curriculum content. And also just we want you to feel comfortable and prepared to actually just beginning adapting this content for the producer audiences that you're working with. And it is meant to be adapted and altered based on the producers and the time and the context that you're working with. So before we move into the evaluation pieces, I just want to see if there's any questions. Okay. Oh, and Karen, had a suggestion about a concluding activity where you bring producers and buyers, including schools, together. Oh, at an expo, and that has been something that a lot of folks have been talking about as well. And Nicole is curious if any states have a producer child nutrition director matching program. And I had mentioned that, but what are some other producer buyer programs that you folks have done with related to schools? It sounds like a lot of you folks have a producer food service director meet and greet. So that might be a really great opportunity to think about building and your producer training around. And Amber's wondering about an IRB, and I think that's related to the evaluation. And this actually has gone through OMB, this evaluation. And as Lydia will tell you in a little bit, it is somewhat limited because of needing to have the OMB approval. So she'll talk about that, and that would be a really great question, Amber, for Lydia. All right. So believe it or not, we're having our first break because we had to switch our topics around, and the conclusion typically is on day 3 and the site visit is on day 4. So we're going to go straight into our break. And then we're going to hear from Lydia here pretty soon. And then Tomas is going to talk about the planning and outreach tools with a very extended state breakout sessions.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So to start us out with this segment, we're actually going to be jumping into the planning and outreach guide now, followed by a coverage of our evaluations by our partner in New York University. And then after that, we'll be going into kind of an extended breakout session with your groups. So just to start us out, we're going to be talking about the planning and promotion of your trainings with a guide that was created by Anna Mullen, which is a former NFSN communications director, along with support from NCAT. And just for some context setting, throughout this week, you've been learning about the training content, you've been meeting with your state teams, and hopefully you've been brainstorming how you might be able to pull all of this information together into practice. So this last session will serve as kind of the structural support that you can use for event planning and outreach for the local producer training. So we have, we have roughly, the coverage of this segment is pretty short. The majority of it is actually going to be spent in your breakout sessions following the eval segment to really think about how promotion and coordination of the event will take place. So think of this as just kind of some of the guidelines and prompts that'll be used in your breakout session in a few moments. But for this last session, we want you to start thinking about what the creation of the local producer training will look like. But before doing that, just want to introduce you all to the actual planning and outreach guide. I'll provide a link to it in a moment. Just give me 1 second. All right. So in the chat, you'll have a link to the digital version of the planning and outreach guide for you. Okay. So we'll review some of the key components of this guide, and I'm going to set you up with an activity to help guide you throughout using the actual planning and outreach guide in your state teams as well. So at this time, pull up the guide, and you can pull it up either hard copy or the digital copy that I just shared with you. And you know, the intention of this tool is to both provide you with a checklist for how to plan a training from start to finish, and to provide you with some of the tools and templates to make that an easy lift. I want to note that, you know, this interacts a lot with the facilitator's guide quite a bit. So you should notice that these two tools are really designed to be working together. We designed this guide recognizing that you are all professionals, and that this is very likely not your first time conducting any kind of outreach for a workshop, specifically even a producer's workshop. So with that said, we tried to really build this guide as a roadmap. It's not designed to replace you, but rather to help you get your work done faster. And we wanted to give you the setting and some of the tools, and not all of the answers. So everything here should be considered kind of fair play to adapt to however you see fit. So with that, let's look at the power of the checklist. At the core of this guide is a giant checklist, and we designed it to give flow to any kind of planning processes that you all will be conducting. You can literally start from the beginning and work your way straight to the end, and to have a successful training. This checklist, however, does not know the specifics or the details of your local producer training. So you'll need to read through it in its entirety and make sure you make decisions and adjustments to your local situation. This tool really relies on your ability to localize it in order to work best. Moving on, the guide versus the rulebook and localizing content. Please don't take what is presented here as gospel. You'll note that, we keep on using the word guide, but, you are all the experts in this area. So you're all the experts in your own communities. And this just refers back to my statement about really localizing this tool to meet the needs of your audience as well as your community. And then, be sure to notice, a few things that are worth pointing out. We created an online version of this document that's fully hyperlinked. For this tool, the digital version may actually work a little better than the hard copy, because it's meant to be interactive in that kind of a way. If you're accessing the digital version, you'll see that the purple links will take you through the digital versions of the document. The blue hyperlinks will send you to editable versions of the templates. And at the very bottom of every template, you'll see blue hyperlinks that will send you straight to downloadable and editable Microsoft Office documents that you can use to customize to your needs. So let's get to the main focus of this session. Shortly, you'll be able to break out into your state teams and actually start sort of planning the local producers training. And once you're in your teams, we want you to just take the first minutes to kind of familiarize yourselves with the checklist starting on page 3 of the toolkit, and scan that area. We want you to start thinking about how you can make it work for you, and how this would be sort of fit into your efforts to localize. Specifically focusing on the timeline and the flow of the planning. Does it match your capacity? Does it match the capacity of your producers? So keep all those things in mind when reviewing the templates and thinking about how this tool can fit your needs. You'll also want to start customizing the tools as early as possible, and identifying what needs to be changed in the timeline, and what needs to be modified, and where any kind of gaps exist. The essential question for the activity is, how does this guide match up and mesh up with ways that you already conduct your work? So on that note, that really covers our introduction of the planning and outreach guide. And we wanted to just maybe take a quick moment to maybe open it up before we go into the evaluation and before we actually go into our breakout sessions, wanted to maybe open it up to a dialogue with you all to talk about any kind of funding opportunities and any other questions that you might have at this point. So I'm going to pause for a moment and yeah, see how you all are doing. Oh, that's a great observation, Crystal. You're a celebrity.
This is Amber from Virginia. You had mentioned the first day about grants availability. Did you just say that you could talk about that right now? I was really curious about the grants that were mentioned that were that could be used for the trainings. Not the state planning grants, but the other ones, whatever those are.
Yeah. So we had mentioned some of the grant opportunities in the past, and we were hopefully going to have a discussion about those. I'd like to maybe, if Tammy, if you wanted to maybe chime in about any kind of opportunities that you thought should be mentioned at this point, or.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, Amber, if you're referring to the turnkey grant. Yeah, so that's one of the farm to school grants, but there is a specific grant for the producer trainings related to bringing the farm to school. And I don't know if Nicole is able to come off mute and maybe reiterate or talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I also had to do a little bragging for our sister agency over at AMS, who put together this fact sheet. I think they put it out in April, May of this year. It does a really nice job of breaking out the various grants by sector of the supply chain. So if you haven't seen that yet, definitely check it out. I think all the links in it are active, so it'll take you directly to that agency's grant page and give you all the details on the points of contact. And I say that because our grant program is tricky enough, so I choose not to try to speak on behalf of any other agency's grant, other than there's some really phenomenal opportunities for local programs right now. But yeah, in regards to our current turnkey producer grant track, essentially, and thank you, Lacey, for putting the link to the grant on here. And, you know, funny as it is, I actually have the RFA like right up in my, open in my window. But the turnkey grant track is designed specifically to fund state agencies to replicate these trainings at a local level. And I believe it's up to $50,000 with a 25% match, and can be a 12 to 24 month grant. Fiscal year 21 was the first year that grant track was available. And I will definitely, want to mention that both Maryland Department of Ag and Pennsylvania Department of Ag went after that, and both were awarded. I think there was 4 state agencies in total that got that grant. And Maryland's getting ready. They're like in January planning to roll out their first training. But essentially the RFA is pretty streamlined. There's a set number of activities that are predetermined. So you don't really have to think too hard, because they definitely encourage you not to deviate from the suggested activities that are laid out in the project work table that's associated for that grant. And I have too many, I'm trying to open it, but I have too many windows open. So it's going to take me a second to find the right one to share what the project activities look like. But more or less, the training is designed specifically to replicate this producer training. So here I go. I think I found the right window. So there's, a request within the RFA that lays out all the pieces that you have to submit, including a project narrative, a budget, and then filling out this project plan as part of the grant package. So I can also direct if there's any other questions there. We did do an RFA about all the grant tracks that are available, but I'm happy to help address any specific questions. And if Karen or Patrick, if you guys want to chime in on your experiences thus far, we just awarded these grants in July, but I'll definitely give them the opportunity to chime in unless anyone had questions more specific to the
Just a
detail.
quick follow-up question. One, is there a match required on this grant for the turnkey? And two, can you, if you wanted to do it in a virtual or webinar type of fashion, does it allow you leverage to do that versus like an in-person or a blending of the two?
Yeah, no, those are great questions. Yes, there is a 25% in-kind or agency match associated with the track. And I don't believe we have any. I know like Pennsylvania right now is kind of trying to figure out if they're going to do just that, a hybrid of an in-person versus virtual. And my understanding is we don't limit the format in which the training. It's just, I think what we really ask is that the curriculum follows, as most of the curriculum that was provided in this training. Not that you can't modify it, that you use that as a guide.
Right. So I'll say a few words. Since this was the first, producer training grant that USDA came out with, I found the template really easy. So if you're used to writing grants, this is super easy to do. So I encourage you, if you're even considering it, applying for the grant. I mean, I don't know if the template has changed, but it was like almost too easy compared to some other federal grants. I think I overthought some things just because I'm used to really extensive grant applications, but this is super easy to apply. And then that's why with extension, so I have my extension partners with me. So extension ag agents are going to be doing the training. And then also we have SNAP Ed with us, and then also our Department of Education. So I think we had our team already because we had been meeting before this training just because the training was so late. So that's probably why we're a little bit more organized, just because this grant, I only applied for a year because I didn't know there was a 2-year option. I might have already thought that, but that's fine because our farmers meet in the wintertime, so we're ready to go. And so yeah, we'll let you guys know how it goes. But it was easy. Yeah,
I would second that. This is probably the most straightforward grant application I've ever seen. That's, I think I wrote like a 1-page summary narrative and then, filled out just the charts. There's a chart for the narrative and a chart for the budget. And, I had done a bunch of planning so ahead of that. So it made it very easy. I had very little data that I needed to collect. It was I probably had more anxiety about it than was even necessary to have. And I will say we have pushed back our training, trying to hope for days where there are fewer COVID cases and to feel more comfortable about doing the training in person. But we are committing to having a plan for virtual. One of the things that we have done in the past and we want to continue to do is we do the training over 2 days, and in between we host a dinner where the producers get to spend a little time having a meal, maybe sharing a beer, and then letting their hair down a little bit, and find that they are much more open about financial issues and things like that they want to talk through, working through some of the financial tools. And it's really helpful. And doing it virtually, moments and dynamics like that are much more challenging to create. So, we've had some preliminary discussions about how can we create that sort of quick and dirty intimacy between people to get them to be more open with each other. And we have a lot more to talk about, but some of our initial ideas were things like putting together a meal kit from a local farm or local CSA that we ship out to everybody that they can share, you know, over, you know, they can sit and eat the same food while they're on screen with each other and still kind of be having a meal, and different things like that, where we can sort of replicate things or just find new ways to do some relationship building that you miss out on when you're not with one another, you know? So, but we're committed to that. We will have a plan, and we will either do, depending on how all the plans come together, we will either do what we're hoping to do, I should say, is a live version and a virtual version together, so that we can, if we make this plan for how we would do it virtually, even if, you know, it's a great time to come together in person, it'd still be nice to test out those plans. So, and see how it all comes together. So we'd like to do a virtual one, even if we don't need to. We'll see how things are limited. You know, we may end up just doing it virtually, but one way or another, at our new date, there will be a training. But there might be two. So we'll see.
Well, thanks all for that discussion. Yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing some ideas and strategies, Nicole, and thank you for everyone else for chiming in. Moving on, we're actually going to jump into our evaluation segment, which will be led by Lydia Walter. She's on the line now, and I could pass it to you, Lydia.
Great. Hi, all. I am Lydia Oberholzer. I live in Maryland, so I'm close to you guys. I've been working in food systems and agriculture for a couple decades. I do evaluation and research with lots of different groups across the country. In terms of this project, you can switch the slide. Whoever, is that you, Thomas? Sorry.
It's me, Lydia, Tammy.
Hi, Tammy. Thank you, Tammy.
Okay, yeah.
Great. In terms of this project, we developed the surveys and the evaluation plan before even the curriculum was set, because of the partnership with FNS. Everything needed to go through OMB, USDA's OMB, and that's a long process. It can take up to a year. So we needed to do the pre-survey, the post-survey, and that all the survey development before the curriculum was set, and even before COVID hit. So we're aware that everything isn't perfect with the evaluation portion of the trainings. And we're hoping to work with folks as they do their trainings to make it work for them as much as we possibly can. So I wanted to put that out there before we started talking. On this slide, you can see the overview of the evaluation of the actual trainings that the trainers will do. There's and you'll take part in 2 out of 3 of these if you're doing the curriculum or a substantial portion of the curriculum. Before the producers even take part in the training, there's a pre-survey. It's the longest of the surveys because it asks about both knowledge and their practices, their farm to school practices. And then at the end of the training, there's a 5 to 10 minute survey. And then the follow-up survey comes like 6 months to a year after we gather their email information. So we're the ones who go and communicate with them for the follow-up survey. And that one's a really, really short survey. And there are incentives included for the follow-up survey if they get all the way to number 3. You can switch to the next slide, Tammy. So just to give you a little bit of overview of the survey content, as I noted, the pre-survey is the longest survey. It includes farm demographics, so what products they produce, the number of years they've been farming. It also looks at their farm to school activities and sales so that we can look at whether there was any change. So those questions are asked on the pre-survey and the follow-up survey, which is taken like 6 months to a year after. Self-reported knowledge change in terms of farm to school topics and interest in doing farm to school. Those are done on the pre and the post surveys before and after the workshop. And then feedback on the training. So, you know, what did they find most useful? What topics do they need more information on? Those are done right after the workshop. And just to give you a little bit of overview of how the pre-survey and the post-survey will work, Tammy, you can change the slide again. And it's different for, of course, in-person and online surveys. The introduction slide deck, and I'm not sure I have the right slides anymore, but there's an introduction slide deck that provides instructions for conducting the pre-survey. This is also part of, yeah, I should back up. We develop a protocol that outlines all the steps you're going to take in terms of if you're in person or you're virtual. So a lot of this stuff, I'm giving a really brief overview. This stuff is outlined in detail in the protocol that we'll give to you. If you're having an in-person training, of course, you'll get a packet of surveys in paper format. And if you're doing it virtually, the survey will be online. There's an informed consent form that everybody needs to sign or check. And those will be either part of paper or virtual copies. We do want to make sure, one of the things we like to bring up and you'll be able to see in the protocol is just to let folks know that the evaluation is voluntary, and that they don't need to answer any of the questions they don't feel comfortable with. They can withdraw at any time. Just some basic human subjects outline in terms of this is voluntary. It's not a mandatory thing, so that they feel more comfortable about filling out the survey. You can go to the next slide, which is the post-survey. The post-survey slides are on the conclusion slide deck. That's a screenshot of it. I don't know if it's been edited since or revised, but it is part of the package. Again, if you're virtual, the post-survey there'll be a link to the post-survey that they can take. If you're in person, it will be a paper format that it'll get sent to you. Again, instructions will outline, to remind them that it's voluntary, all those things. And just a final reminder to producers that they'll receive a request to complete a third survey about 6 months to a year after. Of course, whether they remember that or not, we will be sending that out. And again, that's on the directions. You can switch to the next slide. So a couple of things, as I mentioned, COVID has hit a lot of how the curriculum is going to be used and how the workshops are being run. So we understand that we need to be flexible, and we're willing to work with everybody. We want to make sure that you keep in contact with NCAT and FSN so that we know what's happening and we have enough time to prepare with you to get ready for the evaluation part. Another question that we've gotten a lot is whether the results from your workshop can be given back to you. And yes, of course we can do that. Happy to work with you on that and get that back to you as soon as we possibly can, in a format that is useful to you. And I think that's it. There should be a survey, and I know that you all have time in this training to take part in it, but we want to make sure that that we sent a survey out this morning about this training, and we hope that you'll take some time to fill it out. And FSN has really used the feedback from these surveys to improve the training and improve the processes, and we just want to make sure, I wanted to make sure to put that out there. And that's it. Do we want to introduce Mara? Is she online here today?
I am.
Oh, hi, Mara.
Hi,
There you
Lydia.
go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Mara Hinn. I am a community food systems specialist at NCAT. I work with Tammy in Montana, and I'm joining the call just to introduce myself real quick to follow up Lydia's discussion, because I will be helping with the evaluation piece of your trainings. I'll be following up with all of you to just get more information about the trainings that you're planning and find out what your evaluation needs are. So where we will mail those packets, how many producers you're anticipating to have, and things like that. So just wanted to pop on and say hello, so you can put a face to the name when I start doing those outreach emails. So thank you and good to be here.
Great. I'm happy to open it up to any questions, comments. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask now about the evaluation, I'm here. I like to note that evaluation does really bring out all the chatter. It's always so quiet.
Lydia, one question that came up earlier in the training
Okay.
was just around the information that folks would have access to, how quickly they'd be able to access the responses from their participants and kind of what that flow would look like.
So access to what we would do is download the summary results from SurveyMonkey. And basically it's a really nice little spreadsheet that gives you like each question and each answer. And we can get that to you pretty quickly post workshop. I mean, I can see turning that around within a week. As long as I'm kept like in the loop that this is happening. And yes, we would de-identify the data because we do ask the producers. So it was asked whether we're going to de-identify the data. The producers do answer questions about their farm name and stuff, but we will de-identify it before we send it to anyone. And the only reason we ask that question is so that we can match pre and post and then find follow-up surveys. So we're not going to use that data in any way ourselves other than to match. And that data will only stay with the outside external evaluators.
Is there an opportunity to add more questions to the survey to like customize it at all or no?
So with OMB, there's not a way for us to add questions to the survey. And I'm sorry about that. I'm happy to share the survey with you to show you the questions if you didn't get a chance to look at it. I think it's in the packet. I'm sorry?
Above and beyond what we saw on the screen, right?
Oh, yeah. Is it in the packet, Tammy?
The actual survey is not, it's just guidance for doing virtual training. So what if I just copy and paste the link to the online survey? Would that be helpful?
That would be great. Because, one of my concerns is that we have, because we've been doing producer trainings for a few years, we have like year over year data now. And if I suddenly depart from what I've been collecting to do this evaluation instead, then I'm starting over, and it would be nice to kind of match it if I can,
Yeah, hopefully it's not so departed that
Right.
even if you have to do it, you can just ask one or two extra questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Tammy, for sending that link.
So how much of a lead time do you need for let's see, when do we send out the survey, like the pre-survey?
So the
So
pre-survey,
we have
okay, sorry,
yeah, so
go ahead.
we have a workshop coming up at the end of January. And so I know that we're going to be collecting registration up until the very end. So that's why I'm just trying to figure out, like, when does this survey happen?
So are you going to be online or you're going to
No,
be?
it's in person.
It's in person.
It's going to be in
So-
person.
Okay, so we, Mara would let us know that you, what you're doing. Hopefully you're keeping in touch.
I'm telling you.
That.
Right. So I'm telling you now, we have a training January 31st and February 25th of next year. So
Yes.
you know.
So we'll
Karen,
get you.
we'll make sure you get in touch with Mara just so we can get your address shared. I actually had your address from the registration. So, and there's actually a little like form that we'll be sharing at the end of this training that states can that we're asking states to fill out, that just asks when your training is and how many producers and such that you expect to have there. So
Yeah, because I guess, yeah, when I did the producer training grant, I thought we had to do our own evaluation, but it sounds like we don't. We use your evaluation.
I didn't know about the grant until I was on here, so.
Oh.
I don't have anything to do with that grant, but I think if you can use it for that, great. You know, let's not double up if you know, that's just overly burdensome. Happy to help.
Okay.
And Karen, I just sent a message over to Travis Herney with our national office team, whoever sees the grant program. So I'll clarify that for both you and Patrick to see if it's the same. And that's just in general. He says, yes, as far as I know. Travis, you should know. So we're going to land on yes, that it's the same,
Okay.
but I'll follow up with you and Patrick if that is
Okay.
So you'll want to also
Yeah.
kind of like more, since you're registering up to the last minute, I would I'd be conservative and give us a number higher than you think. But give us some lead time, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
For what?
to get you the packet of materials.
Okay.
We're going to be sending you a packet of materials with the surveys and
Okay.
like a return address folder. So it's really easy for you, as easy as it possibly can be.
Okay. Yeah, I also need to talk to our extension folks, similar to Patrick, because they have their own survey that they need to do for their own purposes. So these producers may have a lot of surveys. I don't want them to get fatigued over that. But I'll loop around with our extension folks about that, because they need to do evaluations based on the trainings that they do. So
And do they have to do a specific evaluation?
I don't know, Erica or Hannah?
Yeah,
Haley?
we do. We have like teaching evals that we have to submit back to the dean, basically at the end of the day, to go on our CV. So typically we do have a QR code for them as now, so maybe we can send it to them later. We get the participants' emails and then maybe we won't fatigue them. But I get it. There's a lot of surveys and sometimes they don't like to do them all.
No,
Right.
yeah. Someone asked whether the pre-survey should be completed upon registration or right when the training begins. So it is meant to be right when the training begins. And again, we probably would have done it a little bit differently had we known about COVID. But it is at the beginning of the trainings.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Just remember, we're here to help as much as we possibly can. We understand it is a difficult time now, and happy to help you in any way we can.
Alrighty, thanks so much, Lydia and
Thank
Mara,
you.
and thank you all for the discussion and the questions that you shared. And as Lydia mentioned, we're here to assist you in this process, as well as all the other processes of conducting your local producer trainings. So moving on, we're actually going to be going into our breakout session for the day. And this would be, I think, a 30-minute session, so a little lengthy. And I wanted to just give you some prompts when going into your breakout groups. I'll share them in the chat. Just a few questions to keep in mind. Hopefully getting a share back at the end of the day with some of the answers to these questions. So if you can, just be sure to jot down some of the answers related to, why are you doing this training, where and when, things related to kind of the planning and outreach guide that I went over shortly ago. So I'll enter those into the chat now. And Carlos, if you can get us opened up for a breakout session, this will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll all reconvene then. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we're at the end of day 4, at the end of the workshop for the week, and we want to just kind of hear from you, from your teams about how you all are planning on introducing this local producer training within your state. Get a sense of any kind of questions, concerns, or excitement that you have. And yeah, just figure out ways that we can help you assist you in the process of coordinating and getting that local producer training off the ground in your state. But before we do that, we do want to announce our winners for the contest that we had this week. And just want to confirm before I make the mistake of announcing the incorrect winner. 1 second. Okay. So it seems as if Pennsylvania won. So congratulations to all you Pennsylvania folks.
That is 100% Audrey Hess. She racked up all the points. She's
Good
fast
job,
with the
Audrey.
keyboard and the brain.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. So we'll be sending out Etsy gift card confirmations via email for you all. Thank you for participating in that, but congratulations to you Pennsylvania folks. Alrighty, well, so I'm going to go down the list of states that we have, and would love to just hear from you regarding some of the questions that we had prompted you to focus on in your breakout sessions, and then any other sorts of feedback or ideas or final thoughts that you may have. So let's just do about 2 minutes each, and we can start up top with DC and Maryland.
Sorry about that. I was finishing up my survey.
Oh, no worries.
Right. So what did we, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the questions were, why are you doing this training? Who needs to be on your planning team? Where and when is your training? And who is your producer audience? And then lastly, what media outlets do you think will be best utilized to carry the message of the local producer training?
Sure. So who's on their team? So we have Maryland Extension, both our ag agents and SNAP-Ed, because SNAP-Ed does play an important role in farm to school here in Maryland. So we're really happy to have them on board, and along with MSDE, which is the Maryland State Department of Education. And so we are doing, we participated in this training because we did receive a producer turnkey grant. And so we're on the fast track to do the training. So that's something you may want to keep in mind if you do future trainings, to look at who the grantees are, and when you're scheduling, your trainings, just because we're at a disadvantage a little bit, just because, you know, our farmers meet in the winter time. And so this training was very late, and we didn't have, there wasn't a whole lot of flexibility, you know, for the Mid-Atlantic area, you know, so if there was more flexibility in this virtual training to attend another training, just like what Michigan is doing. So yeah, that would have been actually kind of helpful to know that ahead of time. Let's see who, when, and where. So we have 2 dates set up. And so one is going to be at the Mid-Atlantic Fruit and Vegetable Convention at the end of January. We're doing a pre-conference workshop. And then also we're going to do one at the end of February in Maryland. So we're going to do 2 in-person trainings. That's what our plan is right now. And who our producers are. Between Extension and the Maryland Department of Agriculture, we have a vast array of producer audiences. And, you know, we also work closely with Farm Bureau. And then we have smaller organizations that we work with also. So, and urban ag. So we have an urban ag specialist on our team. And so, yeah, we reach the gamut in terms of who our audience is. And then also media outlets. I'm working with our comms office. So and she's on our team. So she'll be helping with press releases and graphic designs for putting ads in our industry papers. Like we have Lancaster Farmer and then, you know, Delmarva Farmer to get the word out about this. And plus social media between Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing, Karen.
Sure.
All right, up next, Delaware. Do we still have a Delaware participant on the line? Maybe not today. All right, well, we'll follow up with them. New Jersey?
Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute. Okay, tell me the prompts again.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so they were, why are you doing this training? Who needs to be on your planning team? Where and when is your training going to be conducted? And then who is your producer audience? And then lastly, how will you be getting the word out? Sort of what media outlets will you be relying on?
Okay, I'm not gonna remember all that, but
Nicole,
okay.
they're also in the chat, just so you, I
can
put them in the chat.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, thank you.
Aren't they from the Jam board too? They're from the Jam
Yes.
board, right? Yeah.
I was looking, I didn't see. Oh, anyway, they're in the that's fine. So why are we doing this training? I am extremely new to Farm to School, so this was a great opportunity to jump right in. So I'm sitting here with new lenses. So, you know, somebody said, oh, I knew all this information. I knew nothing. So this was a great jumping off point for me, for sure. When I came into the job, they kept saying, oh, you don't have to worry about the procurement part, which is funny because I started off with this and, you know, which is a lot of trying to get the farmers, you know, and producers into the schools. But so yeah, I'm kind of excited for that. Who needs to be on your planning team? So far we just have, we have our food core person, we have and then 2 people from the state. We're kind of stuck there. I don't know if there's other people or who we can reach out. Again, like I said, I'm new. So we're going to try to reach out to our Rutgers extension. When and where is your training? Well, Patrick, we were just saying how we would love to come to your training first as flies on the wall prior to doing any of our trainings. We feel like you guys kind of know what you're doing. And I am definitely more a learning by seeing and doing. So, I mean, I don't know if we can set that up, but that was our thoughts, is that we would love to see another state that's, you know, again, this is my 4th weekend. Prior to this, I was a social worker. I also was a teacher. So it's not like I don't have.
You're totally welcome to come. That'd be great.
Okay.
We'd love to have you. And we did it before. We actually had Department of Ag Arizona came out.
Okay. So yeah, so that's what our thinking was. I need to see it being done first, you know, with the producers prior to that. And then our media outlets, we do at the Department of Agriculture. We have we have a division that would market for us. So that's good. That's what we're at. I probably went over my 2 minutes, sorry.
Oh, all good. Thank you for sharing, Nicole. Mhm. Okay, up next, do we still have anyone from Michigan on the line?
Hi, I think we're all still here.
Excellent.
Thank you, by the way, for letting us tag along to this. The three of us, Crystal, Megan, and myself, have added into the group that took the training in April, and it's been really great to get a better sense of what they all learned. We have a training, a pilot scheduled on March 21st. So happy equinox to our growers. And we are intending to focus on farms that could supply ECE sites. And so we'll probably be doing a little bit of adaptation to some of the materials, but we've been spending a lot of time talking about how we'll do that this week. And our planning team includes folks from the Department of Ag, the Department of Education, Cooperative Extension, and a research group at Michigan State University, and then my team, which is at the community college. The community college here runs a food hub as a social enterprise, and so we will be hosting the training here and talking about the food hub as an opportunity for our growers. So the producer audience is farmers who are at the scale to find ECE, the right size market for them. And we have not talked about media outlets that will carry our message, but with so many partners at the table, I think we'll all just put out a press release and it'll get picked up, hopefully. So thanks for having us, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Moving on, Pennsylvania.
Okay, I'm glad you told me that these are in the comment section, because I've heard them twice now and I keep forgetting them. But all right, we're doing this training. A couple of reasons, really. I mean, it's a requirement of the grant, and also, you know, we want to know as much as possible ahead of, you know, we're moving into this format of doing this producer training, and we want to be as well informed as possible. And also, it's kind of like, it's, you know, we didn't have a farm to school conference in the last couple of years, so, you know, things like this are as close as it gets right now for us to get together and do stuff and talk to each other. Who needs to be on your planning team? Well, I can tell you who is on my planning team. So from the state is me and my colleague, Christy Reben, who works within my bureau. She has a background in agricultural banking, and she is the risk management coordinator in our Bureau of Market Development. My colleague, Audrey Hess, is also a great friend in the Department of Education, who does a tremendous amount of farm to school programming out of her offices. And then we have two folks from Kitchen Table Consultants, Elaine Lemon and Helen Kolar. And Kitchen Table Consultants are the folks who really got me started on this path of producer training. They put together my, you know, the original curriculum for us, and all of the financial tools that we use, and have evolved year after year. They get evolved and refreshed, and we've developed, product costing tools for every segment, from field crops to beef and cattle and grain and all of that, so that we're like covering all types of producers. And they bring a tremendous amount of expertise. They're business consultants, but they exclusively work with farmers. So they're really great friends and colleagues to have on this journey. Our training was originally going to be this February, but we have pushed it to next December. And again, feel confident about doing it in a dual format. You know, we're thinking of doing an in-person 25 farmer training and a virtual 10 producer training. Hopefully we'd be able to do both of those. If not, we'll at least do the virtual, maybe 2 virtual, so we get to 20. And our producer audience, we're focusing on veterans. It's kind of been a focus for our bureau and our department in the last couple of years, is really bringing in veterans. In Pennsylvania, we have about 55,000 farms, and about 7,500 of those farms are owned by veterans. And, you know, in our work that we do out of my bureau right now, we're working with like maybe 50, you know, so we want to, there's a huge possibility out of 7,500 there. And so we're all looking for new ways to engage veterans and giving them all the support and love that they deserve. So, we're going to be leveraging relationships with the Pennsylvania Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. And it really works great because not only does my colleague Christy have all this banking background and financial background, but she used to work at the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. So we have it in there. Also Rodale Institute and some others that do a lot of work with veterans. Troops to Tractors is a really great organization that has deep connections to veteran farmers all across Pennsylvania. So we're going to leverage a lot of relationships to bring people into the room. And media outlets, traditionally we have not gone the media, like traditional media route. We do a lot of social media, but we focus a lot on relationship marketing, again, working through the newsletters and the personal contacts through Department of Military Veteran Affairs or Rodale or PASA, the Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture, or as they're called now, PASA Sustainable Agriculture, and Penn State and Farmers Union well, I could go on, just like leverage a lot of relationships, newsletters, follow-ups, direct contacts, all of that usually brings them all together for us. And it's a big sell to get somebody to come, the farmer to come sit in the classroom for a couple of days. So having a personal relationship is usually a big help. But yeah, we will still do press releases. Our communications office is their standard, like doing a press release, and we're going to do all the social media stuff as well. It's just not where I focus my efforts. So, and I think that's all the questions, right? I got one.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a really great response. All right, Puerto Rico.
Hi, good afternoon. Well, I'm doing this training because I have seen the power of the farm to school, and I want to be a resourceful for the state agencies and local farmers. That I am at FNS, but living here in Puerto Rico, I know how to connect people and connect agencies to make this happen. And the planning team, we need, of course, the farm to school coordinator and also the marketing division at the agricultural department, also the extension service. I already have some contacts that we can involve them in the training, and people at the Department of Health, because in the food safety area, if they don't allow kids to eat what they grow in the school gardens. So we need to develop a protocol to address that issue. So that's something that they need to be part of this training. And once we have that team created, then I can tell you when it's gonna be the training. And of course, we need the materials for the training, but I'm just here to help.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And next, Virginia.
Hello. Thanks for this training. It's been a great week. It's been great to get together and learn from everyone and hear what each other state is doing. And it's just been exciting to connect. We are doing this training. It's part of our farm to school grant that we're currently on, collaborating with, I'm from the Department of Education and then Cooperative Extension and VDAX. And so we have a lot of people here. We are trying to kind of create a core statewide group that works on kind of the planning and implementation of the trainings, but then also have regional leads. So it's been great to hear perspectives, throughout the week on what regional leads think will work in their specific areas and their perspectives with their growers on the ground. The past breakout, we spent a lot of time talking about different grant tracks, but then we also talked a lot about timing. So how can we align, the trainings with growers and then also with, school nutrition professionals, because our feeling is that they should be present too, so that we can really make those connections. We also talked a lot about virtual versus in person and kind of the format and layout of that. So we're still working through those things. So that's kind of the update that I have. Amber, do you have anything you want to add?
I think you did perfect. So I don't really think there's anything to add, just that it's complex. And I think for us, we really feel it's important to adapt it to Virginia as much as we can. And I think that's a big part of it, is just the time that we're going to need to do that. But I feel confident that we've got a great core team that's been here and will be able to make this thing work. We have great leadership in Department of Education as well. So.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And lastly, West Virginia.
Becky, if you want, I'll go ahead and go over what we talked about. Let's see, since Becky talked yesterday. So hi, I'm Melinda. Thanks for this training so far. Like everybody else said, it's been really great. And we've gone over stuff that we've known, but we've actually learned some great things too. But so basically, like what Becky mentioned yesterday, is we're thinking about, we're going to do a training that's geared towards ag students. And kind of the idea with that is that it's going to give them a better understanding of what they can do kind of post ag class, right? And an outlet that maybe they haven't considered or they don't know a ton about with selling to schools. And then a good point that Becky had too, that we just talked about, is it will be a chance that students can educate their parents that are farmers as well. A lot of our students that are farmers, their parents are farmers. And so we'll educate them about a market opportunity that, you know, maybe they didn't know about as much. And then we're also going to do a training at our small farm conference. We do trainings there every year anyways. We didn't do one last year though. But we will do that too. And then both of these are going to be virtual. So that's just what we determined. The small farm conference will be in February. So, you know, it's soon, but I think we can get something together that will make sense for that. As far as the ag student trainings, we have one county that we could pilot, that we work with and kind of get an idea of what would make sense most for them, and get feedback. And then we will just have to work with our statewide ag teacher person and just some local ag teachers about timing, I guess, kind of figuring out, you know, every county is different of classes and, you know, schedule blocks, you know, if it's an hour a day or for a week or 2 hours a day. So kind of figuring out how that's going to work best. And partners, we're going to work with Extension, the ag teachers in each county. And then also we have some reps from WVDA in several counties and our producer audience. I'm just seeing if I hit everything. Oh, and social, or as far as media, we just really push everything on social media. And then we have a lot of, you know, kind of email platforms that people shoot stuff out on, other organizations and whatnot. So we can do that. Let's see. I think that's everything though.
Great, great. Thank you. Sounds really exciting. All righty. Well, so that brings us to the end of the workshop. We wanted to encourage you all, if you haven't already, to complete the evaluations that should already be in your inboxes at this point. And, you know, as I think we're going to pull up some slides in a moment, but, you know, we mentioned that the next phase of the project is going to be focusing on technical assistance. And within that phase rather, you know, we are hoping to link you up with as many other regions and state teams as possible, just so you can get a sense of, you know, how the rest of the country and territories are approaching their local producer trainings. Some of them are getting their trainings off the ground now. Some of them are still forming their state teams. So it's kind of a variety of statuses at this point. Within that, we also wanted to ensure that you had access to sharing any kind of technical assistance request with us. So I'm going to share a link to our technical assistance form that we've created. It's going to be in the chat for you there. And we've developed this form just for you all to kind of share any kind of request that you have now. And in addition to that, we have a state update form, which I'm sharing in the chat now. There's a link to that. So that'll allow you to give us an update on what your team status is. And we're hoping to compile all of the statuses and pair you up with other states that may be at similar phases that you are in. So, and just a reminder that we'll also be sending out these links and some other additional resources in an email to you within the next month. So be on the lookout for that. Let us know how you're implementing these trainings so that we can help you and support you in the process. It's a tall ask. There's a lot of information that we've just shared with you. So there's no right approach to introducing the local producers trainings within your state. So just keep that in mind, that we are a resource to you in that process. We'd like to thank our partners at the OCFS.
Tomas,
Sure, yeah,
really quick. Yeah, I see that Karen has her hand up, so I just wanted
yeah, sorry, didn't see that. Go ahead, Karen. Mhm.
That's okay. Thanks, Tammy. So
Mhm.
Tomas, I was curious, so you've done like all across the country now. Do you know of any states that have done the training so far?
No,
They've taken, okay.
not in its
So
totality.
actually, there's one state, and we haven't had a chance to follow up because they're doing like a series, and they just did them this month. So and they were the first ones to implement, and they're from Iowa. So, but we haven't had a chance to really follow up and see how the trainings went and everything. So yeah, Tomas, I'm not sure you've been in the loop with that
Yeah.
conversation, but yeah, Iowa did a series of 3 trainings over the course of several weeks in late November and early December.
Okay, that's good. And then I was just curious, like, how long do you guys provide technical assistance? Like, how long is this grant that you guys have? I know it's not indefinite, so
Yeah,
how long will you be available?
Sure. For the entire year next year will be our technical assistance phase, with some additional support in the year after that. So you can count on sort of the next year as being a year that will be available for any kind of planning or otherwise coordination effort, support in that front. But that's the extent of the technical assistance phase.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions at this point?
I just have a question about evaluations. So are those materials, and will the evaluations be available past that timeline, or would we then move into our own evaluation?
The producer evaluations, will they be
Mhm.
available following technical assistance year?
Right. So how long is, you said how
2022.
long the technical assistance period is, and I'm wondering is that the same period for the grower evaluations? Or
No,
would we?
that'll be the following year. Mhm.
Okay.
I was going to ask, we did a lot of work on the Jam boards. Will those be available for us in the Google Drive? Like if we want to go in there and follow up, because I know there's a lot of really good information brainstorming, so I wouldn't want to use all that effort. So,
Yeah. No, they're your permanent resource. And if you find that you would like to just maybe copy it and convert it to another platform that works better for your state team, that's fine. But it's not our intention to remove them or deny you access to them following the workshop. So you'll have access to them. Any other questions at this point? All righty. Well, again, we thank you all for the amount of time that you took to spend a full week with us. We want to thank our partners at USDA FNS, our evaluation team at New York University, project partners at NCAT, and then the NFSN team as well. At this point, we're actually going to allow you all to go back into breakout sessions if you find that would be useful. We'll keep them open likely for, I think, another hour. So if you want to just jump on the momentum and stay with your state teams at this point, you can do that, but it's not a requirement at all. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time this week, and best of luck to you all in bringing the farm to school.
Thanks, everyone.